The morning I found a piece of poisoned meat under my gate, I knew the game had changed. It wasn't just about parking anymore, it was about power control and hate disguised as neighborhood rules. I wasn't dealing with a difficult neighbor, I was at war with one. Before that day, I actually liked my life on Maple Creek Lane. It was the kind of quiet postcard street you see in movies, tree-lined calm, where neighbors waved and borrowed sugar. My house was my pride, a blue-doored colonial with a porch swing where I spent hours sketching ideas for my graphic novels. My best friend was Brutus, a 120-pound Rottweiler who thought he was a lapdog and snored loud enough to shake the windows. We had peace. Until the pink Tesla showed up. The first thing that hit you wasn't even the car, it was the color. A nauseating Pepto-Bismol pink that clashed with the earthy tones of every home around it. Then out stepped her, Ellsworth Beaumont. Late 60s hair, sprayed stiff face, pulled so tight she looked permanently surprised. She scanned the neighborhood like she owned it, like the rest of us were just tenants renting space in her fantasy. I waved because that's what neighbors do. She didn't wave back, just looked me up and down and sniffed like she'd smelled something she didn't like. Brutus growled softly beside me. I rubbed his head. Easy, boy. Let's give her a chance. That was my first mistake. The next morning, I opened my garage and froze. There it was, her pink Tesla, parked perfectly sideways across the mouth of my driveway. Not a little over the line, not half blocking. Completely sealed shut. I stood there blinking, thinking maybe she'd made an honest mistake, but no one accidentally parks like that. I walked over, rang her doorbell. She cracked it open just an inch and said, "Can I help you?" in a voice that could cut glass. I kept my tone polite. "Hey, good morning. I think you accidentally blocked my driveway. I've got a meeting downtown." She didn't blink, didn't apologize, just smirked and said, "The street parking was full. I'll move it when I'm ready." Then shut the door in my face. I swear, I stood there a full 10 seconds trying to process the sheer audacity. When you're ready. Who does that? I was late to my meeting, but worse, I was boiling. Still, I told myself maybe it was a misunderstanding. It wasn't. The next morning, the same thing. Tesla. Sideways, blocked. When I confronted her, she gave this fake gasp hand on her chest. "Oh dear, my memory isn't what it used to be." Then added, "You really shouldn't raise your voice at an elderly woman. Makes me feel unsafe." And there it was, the weaponized fragility. The unspoken accusation hanging in the air, a big black man threatening a delicate old white lady. I clenched my jaw, forced myself to stay calm. "Move your car, or I'll have it towed." Her eyes flashed. "You wouldn't dare." I smiled. "Try me." That became our morning ritual. I'd wake up, find my driveway blocked document. Everything with photos, knock, threaten, towing, watch her, move it slowly, dramatically. Sometimes only a few inches. Every day she found a new way to push the boundary. And every day I lost a little more peace. When I finally brought it to the HOA, I thought maybe reason would prevail. The president, Arthur Abernathy, looked like a man who'd never smiled in his life. He nodded, frowned at my photos, and said, "We'll send her a formal notice." That's it. A letter. 2 days later, I looked out my window and saw her reading that letter on her porch. Then she tore it into 4 neat squares and tucked them under her windshield wiper. She looked right at me and smiled. That smile said everything. Rules don't apply to me. I started to feel the weight of it, the daily tension, the humiliation, the sense that I didn't belong in my own home. I called the police. When they showed up, she turned on the tears. "This man's been harassing me. I'm so frightened." One officer bought it. The other, an older guy named Miller, saw through it. "Ma'am," he said flatly, "your car's blocking his driveway." But then came the dreaded phrase, "It's a civil matter." Translation, "We can't help you." So there I was, standing beside my blocked driveway again, realizing the system had failed me completely. The HOA, the police, everyone. And then came the poisoned meat. That afternoon, I was playing fetch with Brutus. The ball rolled near the gate and he stopped short, growling. I looked down, saw a small lump of raw hamburger with little black pellets inside. Rat poison. I looked over the fence and there she was, Ellsworth pruning her roses, smiling. "Having trouble with your animal," she chirped. My hands shook. I scooped up the meat with a shovel and sealed it in a plastic bag. Brutus whined softly beside me, confused. I crouched down, looked into his big brown eyes, and felt something snap. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every humiliation, every smirk, every time I'd chosen to be the bigger person. And now she'd tried to kill my dog. I remember thinking, maybe I should just move. Maybe peace isn't worth fighting for. But then Brutus came over, laid his head on my knee, and I knew no. This was my home. He was my family. I wasn't leaving. If the system wouldn't protect me, I'd protect myself. So I called Jamal Calloway, an old college friend who ran a Rottweiler rescue and professional canine training facility. When I told him everything, there was a long silence. Then he said, "She tried to poison Brutus." "Okay, we're handling this." The next week was a blur of preparation. I posted 4 huge aluminum signs around my property. Warning, Canine Training Facility. Do not enter. All liability waived. Then I installed 4 4K security cameras, all uploading to the cloud. If she so much as sneezed in my direction, I'd have proof. 3 days later, Jamal arrived with a truck full of muscle, 3 perfectly trained Rottweilers, Zeus, Hera, and Athena. Together with Brutus, they looked like an armored unit. Jamal grinned. "We're not breaking any laws. We're just training." And train we did. In my garage, every day we practiced. Jamal brought scrap Tesla wheel covers coated in tough rubber and taught the dogs one command work. They'd grab the object, tear it apart, then drop it at our feet for a reward. No aggression, no chaos, just precise professional obedience. Ellsworth watched from her window, seething. I saw her on the phone sometimes, probably calling the HOA or animal control, but the signs were up, the dogs were licensed, the training was legal. She couldn't touch me. For a whole week she stayed quiet. No pink Tesla blocking my driveway. No smirks, just silence. I knew it wouldn't last. People that say like her don't stop, they wait. And sure enough, Thursday morning came. I opened my door, coffee mug in hand, and there it was, her Tesla, sideways across my driveway again, front wheels crushing my new azaleas. My pulse steadied. This was the moment. I put on my blue silk robe, brewed a fresh pot of coffee, and opened the door to the backyard. Zeus, Hera, Athena, and Brutus padded inside, alert and waiting. I set one of our training toys, a rubber-coated Tesla wheel cover, just inside the garage, pressed the button, and watched the door rise. Sunlight poured in, glinting off the pink paint of her car. I took a sip of coffee and said softly, "Ready to go to work?" 4 tails wagged. I pointed toward the garage. Work. What happened next was beautiful chaos. 4 Rottweilers launched forward like black lightning. Zeus hit the bumper first, ripped it clean off. Hera and Athena went for the tires, tearing rubber with surgical precision. Brutus lunged for the wheel cover, clamped down, and ripped it free. The air filled with the sounds of cracking plastic, squealing metal, and Ellsworth's distant scream. She burst out of her front door, still in her nightgown, yelling, "My car! Stop them! Call them off!" I took another slow sip of coffee. "Can't you read the signs? Ellsworth dangerous area. Training in progress." She froze at the property line, eyes darting from the shredded car to the bold red warning sign. The realization hit her she'd just walked into the perfect trap. Sirens wailed minutes later. Officer Miller stepped out of the squad car, looked from the mangled Tesla to the calm dogs sitting by my feet, then at me in my robe. "What in the Sam Hill?" Before I could answer, Ellsworth lunged toward him, shrieking, "Arrest him! He set those beasts on me. It's a setup." I kept my voice even. "Officer, as you can see, this is a certified canine training area. The dogs were following a command on my property. The car was trespassing. I have video from 4 angles." Miller's lips twitched like he was fighting a smile. "A civil matter," he muttered, almost amused. Ellsworth's face turned ghost white when I added, "By the way, I still have that poisoned meat she threw over the fence. I'd like to file a report for attempted animal cruelty." That shut her up. The other officers examined the signs, the cameras, the shredded car, and the clear tire tracks over my property line. One of them whispered, "She's toast." An hour later, a tow truck hauled away the corpse of her pink Tesla, leaving a trail of plastic carnage. Mr. Henderson clapped from his garden. The Rodriguez kids cheered from across the street. Ellsworth slammed her door and vanished for 2 days. On the third, a moving truck appeared. She didn't even look in my direction as she left. Just like that, the war was over. You know, people like Ellsworth, they count on your silence. They think you'll swallow every insult, every act of petty cruelty because you're decent, because you follow the rules. But there's a difference between peace and surrender. Sometimes the only way to deal with a bully is to build a smarter trap and let them destroy themselves.